All right, welcome to a very special edition of Bill Chasing the Movies, a Star Trek edition, if you will. And I'm joined by a special guest today, Trekker, and a good friend of mine, Scott Mason. Scott, welcome. Firing out the phaser for all you Trekkers out there. And first off, right off the bat, we're going to talk about the new Star Trek movie that just came out last weekend. And I have to say right away, I was impressed. J.J. Abrams really put together a well-made movie with slick special effects, good cinematography, and fantastic performances from a young cast. I was really impressed by Zachary Quinto, who played Spock. He was the one I think who really broke out here. Chris Pine, a relatively new actor, playing Kirk. I think really, I don't know, kind of to me really how would a young William Shatner, if you will, would have back in the day. But the movie was far from perfect. Um, there were little scenes in the movie I thought that really didn't need to be there, and they were just merely there because they look good. But it wasn't enough to hurt it that much, so I still give the film 3.5 stars out of 5. Scott, what were your overall thoughts of the plot of the film?
I thought it was good. It's hard for me as a big fan of the show and the series to not question things when you go back in time in a series. You know what I mean? Because then there's obvious, easy ways to make flaws, and but with this one, since there was time travel in the film, you can't really argue it too much because once there's time travel, you can change anything.
That is true. That is true. You were touching when we were talking the other day about the some little historical inaccuracies. I'd like you to touch on that a little bit.
Well, like I said, there is some things that was like, as a Trek fan, you get a little bit like edgy about. But like I said, there's time travel there, so once you get that involved, anything can happen because you start playing games with the timeline and everything goes all crazy. You know what I mean? So
Absolutely.
some of the things, the big one for me was Spock having a romance with Uhura.
Yes.
That was unnecessary. It was pointless. The reason behind why I think they would do that is because all along in the series and in the movies and such, Spock and Kirk kind of were on the same level of stardom in the films. They were always, there was never one that was really above the other. And so in this one, you see Kirk getting more of the action.
Right.
You see him more involved in the exciting scenes and stuff like that. So they want to put Spock on a little bit more of a pedestal by giving him a love interest in the film. Me personally, I didn't like it. I didn't think it was necessary. I don't think it's right considering that Vulcans can't really make contact with humans historically like that. So that kind of threw it off for me.
I was really impressed by a lot of the performances in the film, especially by Zachary Quinto, who played younger Spock. I think he really embodied the Vulcan personality, if you will, the Vulcan mentality that Leonard Nimoy did so well in the original Star Trek movies and series also. Um, what did you think of his performance compared to that of Leonard Nimoy?
No, I thought he was very good. You can tell because when there's that final scene later in the movie where they actually meet up, and their personalities are very similar in that scene, and you're kind of surprised at it. And the same goes for all the characters, really. I think each one of them represented the younger versions of the original characters very well.
Yes, absolutely. I also thought that John Cho really stepped out of his comfort zone in this film, mostly playing in comedies. His role as Zulu here, he really did well. Of course, most people know him from Harold and Kumar, the Harold and Kumar films. What really impressed me about him is that it seems as though he's been an actor who's always been in a strict comfort zone. Now, compare him to George Takei, if you will. Do you think that he really brought a little bit more charisma to the Zulu character in the scenes he had, or what are your thoughts on his role?
First of all, it's Sulu, not Zulu.
Sorry.
Let's just get that straight. Second, I think he added a little bit more masculinity to it, to be honest.
Oh, okay.
And that's not a shot at George Takei. Um, it seemed like he was a little bit more of a tough guy. You know what I mean? He like busts out that sword and he knows how to fight with it, and he added a little bit more aggression than what the normal Sulu character brought forth.
Right. I was also very impressed too in two more performances. Carl Urban, who played Bones, I thought really kind of had that same energy as DeForest Kelly did, and also Simon Pegg, British comedian, mostly known for his comedic roles as well, playing Scotty. I thought was very charismatic, and the way that they kind of did their subtle nods, if you will, or winks to the camera, sort of the original series, singing some of their famous lines. What were your thoughts on those two?
Bones. I thought it was a very good development between him and Kirk, and how that whole thing started. That made me laugh. There's a few things that made me laugh about that whole thing, but I thought he did a very good job representing the character, and same with I'm not sure what the British guy's name is. Again.
Simon Pegg. Yeah.
Simon Pegg. I thought he did a very good job playing Scotty. I hear the same lines all the time because my name's Scott. But he represented it well. The whole cast as a whole really brought forth and showed the true nature of the original characters.
It really did, and that's what really impressed me about the film was that they could have easily just tacked on a bunch of big Hollywood bigwigs, which there are not very many in this film if you really look at it. None of these people are what you would call big box office draws. Like could have easily thrown a young guy like Channing Tatum or Shane West or whoever in these type of films, or even James Franco, who of course you remember from the Spider-Man films playing Harry Osborn.
Yeah.
He was actually, from what I understand, the one that many people in message boards thought should play the younger version of Captain Kirk. But I honestly don't think that Franco wants to associate himself with those movies. And plus, I think he would kind of overact. He would really just bring a little too much to the role, if you will. Just kind of try to drive it home a little too much, because you need to stay loyal to the original, I guess is what I'm trying to say, in certain ways of embodying of the characters, which is what I really loved about this film. You need the proper people, and that's what I love that the casting director did here. And also, I got to give more props to J.J. Abrams, who, of course, he directs Lost, a show that you and I both enjoy, and did the movie Cloverfield, which, albeit not great, was very ambitious. And overall, I think his effort here was just a tremendous, tremendous job. Another thing I want to touch on, for a prequel, do you think it was a little too modern, or do you think that was necessary?
You can't expect them to be coming in with ships on strings and flying them around on a secret background. So, no. There's a big difference here between this Star Trek movie and, say, the new Star Wars movies.
Right, of course.
Personally, a friend of mine and I feel that the Star Wars movies were a little bit too computerized.
Mm-hmm.
The new versions, the new ones,
Absolutely,
episode 1,
yes.
2, and 3.
Yes.
Were a little bit too computerized, especially with Yoda. He looked way better as a puppet. In our opinion.
Yes, I agree.
But with that, there was a big gap between the time that they made the original 3, episode 5, 6, or 4, 5, and 6, and then when they started doing the redos. With Star Trek, you had a long progression. It was more drawn out, where you had movies, and as the movies went along, the graphics got better and better. So there's a build up, and it wasn't unexpected for them to have amazing graphics in a movie.
Absolutely.
So with this one, there's a few things, on the original series, everything was push button, and they had touch screen on the movie, and things just look way more advanced. But you can't not expect that to happen. It's the times. I'm sure if they had the technology back then when they were doing the original series, they would have done the exact same thing. So you want to see a little bit more of the classic era, but no, I think they reflected it really well.
I personally think some Trekkers are expecting just a little too much from this film. I think that a film like this is going to be Hollywoodized no matter how you cut it. You got to expect that. You can't just go in expecting everything to just stay 110% loyal to the original, which is online is what I've been reading, and I guess I got to understand the Trekker mentality. It's a different kind of way of thinking. Like, these people study the entire Klingon language and can probably recite the Bible back and forth in Klingon, some of them. So it's pretty nuts how some of these people think, but at the same time, I give them credit for being diehard to what they love. But you gotta turn off your mind a little bit when it comes to that stuff. And anyway, we'll be back with the second segment, talking more about the Star Trek phenomenon.